Hey, friends. I had a really wonderful, wonderful um, experience this morning. Coming from, I had a lesson yesterday with my teacher, Madeline, and she encouraged me in this session to resume performing what she calls the performing beyond fear exercise. And the performing beyond fear exercise is basically a very brief little 3-part meditation where you spend 2 minutes thinking about and reflecting on your own lineage as a musician, all the teachers you've had, and potentially if you're aware of connections, of those teachers kind of going back into history, because lineage is for most musicians, it's an important aspect of who we are and what music making means to us. I know that whenever I do the exercise, a couple key people ping right to the top of that list, and it's really consistent. And then as I think about it, I kind of deepen into other connections and other I become more aware of the breadth of my lineage. Then in part 2 of the exercise, we reflect on our own basic goodness, which comes from Chogyam Trungpa's Tibetan Buddhist approach of just understanding and knowing that every single human being has a basic goodness, a basic, consciousness is here to experience life. And in our approach to our craft or our art, there's an inherent goodness, an inherent humanity that exists within all of us. Part 2, part 3, it's just 2 minutes each time. So 2 minutes on lineage, 2 minutes on our own basic goodness, and 2 minutes then at the end on the basic goodness of our audience, which if we're not like doing this right before a performance, usually what I do is I imagine performing for people, and I put myself in the position of what performance feels like for me. And this is I always get a really interesting emotional sort of lift when I do this last part, because it's so easy to think of an audience almost as an adversary in a way in the musical process. Of I don't know that that might just be me. I don't know if other musicians feel this way, but there's a way in which the audience can become a kind of intimidating force, as opposed to something that we relate to as an aspect of ourselves, other versions of the same basic goodness, here to witness music coming through us. So again, it's performing beyond fear. I think Madeline developed this exercise as a preparation for performance, but she's been encouraging me to do it just every day. And I did it this morning, and it was wonderful. But immediately, the first thing that came up, in part 1 of the exercise, as I was just reflecting on my lineage, I thought to myself, oh my God, here I am with Annalise practicing violin essentially daily now, I realized her first point of contact. You know, the woman whom she studies with, a woman named Natalie, perfect first teacher for her. Just beautiful energy, and Annalise is completely smitten with her, has absolutely just like walks in and just like is in love with this woman. And I just thought, what a beautiful way to start her lineage journey. Now, of course, she's also connected to me. She's connected to my father, and she's heard her grandnewt sing ever since she was born. She's heard me playing piano ever since before she was born. So this isn't like the first connection to another musician that she's experienced, but it is the first connection to someone who is her explicit teacher, and she's entering the process. She's at the very beginning of this process of establishing herself in a lineage. So that hit me. And then I thought, I got the basic goodness, and I was like, oh God, you know, immediately I'm reflecting on my own basic goodness, but I'm also reflecting on her basic goodness, and just imagining her in those lessons, the way she sort of like, you know, both engages really enthusiastically and then also sometimes squirms under the workload, because it's hard. Playing a violin is hard. Putting that thing up to your shoulder and holding it with your neck and using little micro control to like control individual fingers, and that bow hold that's so kind of like meticulous, and then how you move that bow. It's a million little tiny details of action that takes a tremendous amount of focus. And she's on board for it. She's the type of person who is going to be fine with that level of rigorous, meticulous detail. But she's 4. And I get her up in the morning, and we do this before breakfast. And, you know, sometimes it's like she just wants to sit on the cushion and eat applesauce and not pick up the violin. But so this basic goodness exercise just brought me into full connection somehow with the totality of her as a young musician, you know, as a person just beginning in her journey of all this. And then as I did the last part, you know, reflect on the basic goodness of your audience, I also had this impression of, you know, I just got done saying, you know, it's easy to see the audience as a kind of adversarial or judgmental force out there. But as I did the exercise for myself, I just thought, what if it's possible to frame her initial perception of her audience whenever she, you know, as she begins to do recitals or whatever, and as she encounters audiences, what if it's possible to frame her perception of the audience in that way? That the basic goodness of the entire audience would just be something she assumes, and that she that's her habitual way of perceiving it. You know, I was just immediately very, very moved by the significance of this exercise, not just for me, but also what my own, again, I've said this many times on this post, my own psychic reality becomes hers almost immediately. Whether or not I want to or think it, whether or not I want to imprint her with what's in my mind right now, I am imprinting her with what's in my mind right now. So it was just really great to have this exercise that gives me an audit of my own psyche, and that also then it was immediately extending and rippling out and giving me a sense of being hooked into a larger context and the kind of initial launch of another musical journey. So came through very powerfully yesterday that my own ongoing work as a musician is part of Annalise's journey. It is my journey, and I have plenty of my own reasons for doing it, and my own aspirations in some ways for my own continued development as a musician. But I also was getting a very clear message, like this is also about your daughter. This is also about her. So that's what showed up this morning. It's really nice to receive it. I was so grateful to Madeline for telling me that yesterday, putting that out there. Thanks, folks. All the love in the world. I appreciate you. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.